Thanks, Bill. I'm going to share my screen here, and like Bill said, we specialize in the altcoins, right? But if we're going to trade altcoins, especially if we're going to trade them in a volatile market, we need to understand what the overall big players in the market are doing. What are Bitcoin and ETH doing, right? And we can also make a ton of money just by trading Bitcoin and ETH as well, right? Most people here, if you're watching this stream, you probably own Bitcoin or ETH, right? Or else you probably wouldn't be here, right? That's kind of the intro to crypto for everybody. So I want to give you guys very specific key levels to watch for both ETH and Bitcoin, very specific levels, right? So first of all, let me back up and show you exactly what I'm expecting out of Bitcoin. And we talked about this briefly in the last live stream. But there's this big fractal, right? So you just see I created this fractal here off of this price action from Bitcoin off the bottom here at 29,278 all the way up to its $66,000 mark. Now, if we just drag this over, you're going to see this price action looks very, very, very familiar. Bitcoin is doing the same thing over again, right? Had this big pump and then just kind of keeled over in this curve pattern, lost steam, found support on its trend line, exploded again, kind of lost steam, broke down through some support, in a sense, been consolidating under this key level, right? Under this key level. See this consolidation pattern here under 60K. So, why do I have these two levels drawn out here? And by these two levels, I mean this 3XL and 2XL. What does that even mean? Well, these are margin pressure levels. I'm going to explain to you why they're so significant as support and resistance, and why they acted as such strong support up here, right? And why they acted as support here, and why they acted as resistance here. And hopefully we can break through the resistance this time and go onwards and upwards. Well, margin pressure levels are pretty simple. It's a way of projecting support and resistance levels based on the leveraged buying behavior or the buying and selling, the trading behavior of leveraged traders in the market. We know there are a ton of leveraged traders in this market. So what does 3XL 59650 mean? Well, it simply means that as soon as the price drops below, the Bitcoin price drops below this level, 59,650, traders, leverage traders can now enter Bitcoin on 3x long leverage and hide their liquidation points below 59,600. That means Bitcoin can then drop all the way down here. And as long as it doesn't go below 39,600, they don't get liquidated on the trade. It's a pretty safe trade to make, right? If you're bullish on Bitcoin, right? What about the 2x long, 58,500? Well, it's the same exact thing, except for 2x leverage and this 29,278, right? 29,200 and give or take $50, right? This level here is where you can hide your liquidation point and still go long on 2x leverage as long as Bitcoin is below these levels, right? So what does that actually mean? Well, it means when we're crossing from top to bottom, when price is dropping below these levels, buying pressure comes in and pushes the price back up. That's what we saw here. That's what we saw here over and over and over again, right? Until we eventually broke through this support. Not enough buying pressure came in to keep our price level above. The bears won this battle. Now, the bulls are trying to push back through. What I mean by the bulls are trying to push back through, Bitcoin came down here, deleveraged the market, became much cheaper, gave fresh entry points on a very nice trend line, right? What trend line am I talking about? This blue one, you might be able to barely see it. This trend line gave fresh entry points at a lower price on previous support right above a key margin pressure level at 52,700 and has since been exploding upwards. Now there's a very high incentive to get your 2x and your 3x longs in before Bitcoin crosses these levels, right? So there's a lot of buying pressure coming in and shoving Bitcoin's price back up to this 58 to 59,000 price level. So what do I actually want to see out of Bitcoin? Well, we talked about this fractal that would show that shows Bitcoin should consolidate here and then break upwards. I would like I would like it if, and I think we'd all like it, if Bitcoin doesn't consolidate any further. Now it could consolidate into, December 6th next week before we break out and go upwards or break out and go downwards. I would like to see us get through in the next day or two. I'd like to see Bitcoin push through these margin pressure levels, this big resistance, come down, make support on top of them, and break onwards and upwards. This is the key thing that I'm waiting for Bitcoin to do to trade the momentum. Now, there's two ways you can trade Bitcoin here, and Bitcoin as a proxy for their overall crypto market can be very useful as well. If you're trading like altcoins, if you're trading AVAX, Solana, if Bitcoin does well, those altcoins are usually going to explode as well, right? As we've seen over the last day or two, Bitcoin gets this nice bounce, altcoins start to explode. So there's two ways to trade this. The first way is how I've traded it so far. Personally, I bought down here at 54,200. It wasn't the perfect entry point, but it was a darn good one. And I bought on 16x leverage. I know what you're thinking, 16x leverage, that's absurd, Forrest. Why would you buy on 16x leverage? You're going to get liquidated. Well, I used a smaller trading amount. I used good risk management, and I just made sure that I put my liquidation point below this margin pressure level. My liquidation point was a roughly $51,000. So my liquidation point was here, right? Get a little X right there, somewhere in this range, $51,000. And why was I comfortable with that trade? It's comfortable with that trade because we had this very strong margin pressure level, meaning that if Bitcoin were to break down below $52,700, I would expect a lot of longs to come in and start pushing the price back upwards before it liquidates me. So you can either predict the bounce and buy the bottom, buy the reversal, or you can buy the breakout. So we've already had the bounce. We've had the bounce. That's kind of gone and passed. Now, if you want to be a smart trader, let's say you either caught the bounce or you're patient here and you wait for Bitcoin to break through these margin pressure levels. We don't necessarily really want to go long here unless we are trying to enter a 2x or 3x long and hide our liquidation points specifically below these levels, right? Below here or here. And that would be a longer term trade. That would be something like we're trying to trade, enter this trade for like all of December, hopefully ride this up to 79,000, 80,000, 80,000 plus if we get there. And yeah, you could take this as a last opportunity to get your longs in on 2x or 3x leverage to keep your liquidation points safe, or you could trade the breakout. What I mean by trading the breakout is look at this downtrend line here. I'm gonna thicken up this line to a 3x and I'm going to make it orange so you can see it better. Look at this downtrend line. We want to see Bitcoin break this downtrend line. We want to see Bitcoin break through, and it's got a lot of resistance here. It's got the downtrend line. It's got two very strong margin pressure levels that were previous support and are currently acting as resistance, right? You could argue for a little short scalp here, right? If you were just kind of day trading, swing trading, you could argue for a little short scalp here because there's a strong case for Bitcoin to just kind of consolidate, right? But if you're looking for a long position, right, and you're looking for like a 2x, 3x kind of like long-term 2 to 3 months, hodl trade, wait for the breakout. Wait for Bitcoin to confirm the breakout through this downtrend line, through these margin pressure levels, probably going to get a bit of resistance here on this green level where all of our structural resistance was. And then you want to look for the retest, right? Something like that. Something like that. And it may end up being a little bit cleaner. It may look like that. But that would be essentially a bump and run. This bump and run pattern is just a very, very easy pattern to recognize and trade. I trade it all the time. I'm in a Decentraland trade right now that I'll show you in just a second off of this bump and run pattern. It's a very easy trade to make. You can see it happen over and over again. You get the downtrend line, you wait for the breakthrough of the downtrend, and then you buy the support down here on the downtrend line. That's very bullish. That's a very bullish sign when Bitcoin breaks through the downtrend line and makes support on top of it. Ultimately, it usually leads to Bitcoin going higher. Right? Before I go over to the very specific levels that I want to show you on ETH, I just want to show you this exact setup on Decentraland. Decentraland, which is very overextended in terms of price action, very overextended. Now, it is a momentum trade with the metaverse narrative. We expect that this could absolutely go higher. But where do you actually get in? Like, look at this mess right here. This is confusing. It pumped and now it's kind of ranging upwards. How do you get a good entry point here when it's not giving you back much of a correction after this initial correction, right? It gave you back like 40% here. Actually, let me measure it for you guys. Yeah, it gave you back 55% off of this correction, but all of these corrections have been about 20%, right? So how do you actually get in to Decentraland? Well, you wait for the bump and run. And I'm going to show you on the hourly chart to give you a little bit more detail. You look at the downtrend level, right? And then look what happened here. We broke through. That's key. We broke through and made support. Now you could have gone long here. You could have gone long here and then just kept your liquidation point below at about 383 or below the previous support here at about $4.20, right? Or you could have waited for a little bit of a more of a confirmation in the second bounce here on this downtrend line. Enter here, right? And then it's started to trend upwards. Is this like a get rich overnight trade? No, but it's a very solid, very consistent trading pattern that you can trade this bump and run, wait for the support, get a nice solid entry. Even here at $4.65, you were underwater a little bit for a little while, but overall it started to drift upwards. You're profitable on a trade at an entry at $4.65. This is where I entered. I was underwater a few times on this trade, but I've just been patient and kept my stop loss below previous support. Right now I'm up on this trade, and I would like to see, obviously, Decentraland Mana here trade upwards towards the top of its range. This is where I'll be looking to take profits somewhere. And this is a little bit sloppy, so bear with me. Somewhere at the top of this range. It's tested this trend line multiple times. So that's where I'll be looking to take profits, maybe around $6.60, maybe up here at $7, right? That's just a very solid way to get a price entry using that bump and run pattern. All right, so I want to show you the specific levels for ETH that are holding as support and resistance. So these margin pressure levels been very, very strong margin pressure levels. You can see our resistance here at $4,000 turned into resistance again, got a bit of a rejection, popped up above it, and is held as support every single time. Again, I personally went long on Ethereum at 4K. Why'd I go long at 4K? Because we had strong levels. And you're thinking, well, how did you know that it wasn't going to drop through down to 3,400? I didn't know. I can't tell the future. I can tell that we have support at $4,000. I don't know if it's going to hold. I don't know for sure. I know there's a strong chance of it holding, and that's going to give me a solid entry point. If it dropped to $3,400, I would have just averaged my position down and bought again at $3,400 because I know there's strong support here. Look at this support, these margin pressure levels. Okay. So now we're testing this resistance, our previous all-time high before we made this all-time high up here at 48.60 or so. It looks like we've broken through it, which is pretty bullish. Now, what would I like to see? I would like to see Ethereum make support on top of its previous all-time high. Next stop, 5,300. We really don't have a ton of resistance before 5,300 aside from our all-time high. So our all-time high will more than likely act as resistance, right? So we could see some bouncing in here before going up to 5,300. But the next big margin pressure level, the point at which you can no longer long Ethereum and hide your liquidation point below the swing low at 2652 is 5,300, right? So that's a nice solid take profit point for Ethereum. You can look to get in on a dip after taking profits. Or if you're just a long-term hodler with Ethereum, that's fine too. But 5,300 looks like the next support level or resistance level. So I hope you found this useful. I hope you learned something, especially that bump and run pattern. Keep an eye out for it because it presents itself over and over and over again on just about every asset that you can trade, right? So those are the key levels for Bitcoin and Ethereum to look out for. I'll repeat myself one more time, right? 4K was the support for Ethereum. If it drops back down to 4K, it's probably a solid buy there. Otherwise, it may be headed back up to its all-time high at 4,800 or back up or all the way up to 5,300. Bitcoin, we're looking for the breakthrough of our downtrend line. We want Bitcoin to reclaim 60K, find support around this 58 to 59, 650 range and continue on higher. This would be very bullish and a nice confirmation that we're going higher.
Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps users leverage machine learning to become better crypto investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities, and filters out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com.